What's up, everyone? Before we get to today's show, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, share, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. This ensures that we can continue to bring you the great guests like we have today. And check out the end of the episode to see if you are the lucky winner of our Fuji Gi giveaway. Now let's get to the show. BJJ, MMA, and even bare knuckle boxing, today's guest has done it all in combat sports. Listen as Goran Reljic opens up about his incredible martial arts journey. Today, he discusses everything from his early days in BJJ in Croatia, how he found his real BJJ experience when he trained under Roger Gracie, his MMA career, respecting the generations who came before us, and what it feels like to be in a bare knuckle boxing match. Here's the RŌL Radio with ACA fighter, RIZN, KSW, and UFC veteran Goran the Ghost Reljic.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we're live. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm good. We were talking a little bit earlier about how grumpy I am today, but I'm slowly pulling out of that funk, and I'm looking forward to today. But before we get to the guest, as always, RŌLRadio.com. Go drop us a question for us or for the guests. If we read yours on the air, you are dropped into a pool to win a free Fuji Gi. Great quality products. And most of what I have is Fuji. And I think actually except for the ones I don't wear. But the pool is really small now. It used to be everybody who went to the website and took a survey, but now it's only going to be like 4 or 5 people depending on the month. So your chances are way higher.
Oh, it's more than 5. No, more than 5. It's like 20 by now.
Well, no, I'm talking about the actual pool, right? Because we're going to ask 4 or 5 questions a month, and then those 4 or 5 people go into a pool. So your chances are really high.
Yeah, so
check it out.
Keep asking those questions. Send the questions to the guests, and you can send the questions to us too, right? Yeah. So that's the cool stuff. You can ask, why.
How I got so fat?
I was about to say why you so grumpy all the time, but that's a legit question.
It's the company I keep.
Oh wow, that turned around very fast. All right. Well, once again, we're going international.
Yes.
Right. I mean, Goran, how are you?
I'm great, man. How are you?
But and like for those who don't know, you literally overseas right now.
Yeah, I'm in Croatia.
How is life going over there?
It's pretty boring. The season just ended. That was fun. A lot of people, crowded, hot as hell, and now it's kind of like just like getting quiet, and that's it.
That's so like the tourist season, you mean?
Yeah, tourist season. Yeah.
So what do you do off season? You just train and beat people up?
Yeah. I mean, basically, I just train the whole time. And even this season, I trained my ass off the whole time. I had a back surgery late July. And so basically, I had to take like 7 days off, but I still kept training a little bit and kept doing what I was able to. And
wait a minute. What did you just say? You said you had a back surgery and you took only 7 days off?
Yeah, but it's a minor one. So it's not like they don't make like the big cut anymore. Yeah. They make like a very small cut, and they go inside with a probe. And basically they just remove the herniated disc, and you can train within like, depends, like an average person needs like several weeks, but I took like 7 days off, and that's it.
Of course.
Nice.
You're a machine.
Yeah, not quite average.
I've known you for many years, and there's nothing or just nothing normal about you. I mean, you are just machine, working machine, training machine.
That's the job.
That's the job, right? Yeah. Listen, take us back. How all of this started, because here you lived in the U.S. quite a few years. You and I, we've met several times. I know your story, but a lot of people don't, and it's such a unique story. How did it all start? When did you get into martial arts and jiu-jitsu in particular? And then we'll talk about bare knuckle fighting and all that.
So jiu-jitsu, I got into 2003, I believe. I was 19 at the time, and I remember the Pride days, and man, those were really the good old days. I enjoyed watching the superiority of the jiu-jitsu fighters, especially the Nogueira brothers. And I remember watching Ricardo Arona back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so they were like the big names back in the day. And I always enjoyed grappling more than I enjoyed striking. And we didn't have any jiu-jitsu back in the day here in my country. And there were only traditional martial arts like karate, judo, wrestling, and stuff like that. And jiu-jitsu was kind of looked down upon. And I was one of the probably 3 people from the entire country that actually did BJJ. And I remember everybody were mocking us and laughing at us and calling us names and gays and whatever. And they were all saying, like, what kind of a stupid sport is that? Like, you guys are rolling the whole time. You know, nobody understood it. And when I look at it today, like excuse my language, every idiot trains it. And, you know, I kind of hate the hypocrisy behind it, because a lot of these people were the one that were judging us. And today, all of them are like BJJ enthusiasts or whatever. That's one thing that I don't like about it. But yeah, never mind that. It's just the sport was very looked down upon back in the days.
Why do you think that was the case? Why do you think why was it frowned upon? I mean, why people didn't appreciate it at that time?
Well, I mean, it's probably because of our culture here. People are very narrow-minded, to put it that way, here in the Balkans. I had so many offers back in the day where people were coming to me and they were saying, like, what kind of a sport this is? Like, there's no chance that you're going to take me down on the ground and submit me in a real fight. And I was like, are you for real? Like, you actually believe in that? The guy was like, yeah, there's nobody on this earth that can take me down. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, right? Then the guy was like, dead serious. He was like, no, like, you cannot take me down. So I was like, okay, let's give it a try. And, you know, of course, like, guy got taken down. He got subbed. And I had numerous occasions, like situations like this, where people actually were coming with this stupid suggestions. And they actually thought that they cannot be taken down. And they actually thought that they can knock anybody out.
Yeah, that to me just sounds like it was 10 years after what was going on here. I mean, I was training striking arts as a hobbyist back then, but all the people we've talked to who said, like, in the early 90s here in the States, that's what everybody thought. Like, you're not gonna, there's no way, right? I'm going to hit you as you come in, you're going to go down. You know, and if we get to the ground, I'm just going to get up, all that same stuff. I just think it was like 10 years behind, maybe.
For sure. I always say that the States are like 20 years ahead of the Balkans, at least.
So at which point you get more and more? First of all, how do you train if there's only 3 of you training in a whole country, or there's a small amount?
It was hard, man. There was just like a couple of us that were enthusiastic about it. And there was no DVD back in the day. There was no YouTube. We basically we were studying from the VHS tapes. I don't know if anybody still remembers that. And,
believe me, we are old.
Right. So yeah, we were basically like watching the VHS tapes and just learning from there, making our own stuff, and, like, you know, working out in a basement and wherever, you know, just a bunch of kids with a lot of vision, I guess. That's it.
Well, it worked out pretty good for you. I mean, let's just put it that way. But that kind of brings an interesting point of conversation, because I think often here in U.S. at least, we find ourselves maybe not appreciating the fact that jiu-jitsu is so accessible, you know. And right now, I think jiu-jitsu in general is very accessible around the world. Some areas are less than others, but it's pretty accessible between social media, you know, tools like YouTube and websites and so on, and the DVDs and so on. You talk about a scenario where there was nobody. Like, you had to dig into VHS tapes, and there was just a handful of guys who could train. And that had to be a very difficult position to be in.
I mean, it was fun. I'll give you that. It was fun. And I started my journey at the age of 20 or 21, and that's when I first started to travel in England, where there actually was legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools, and that's where I got my first real experience, to put it that way. And
how was that? How was that experience? Like, you don't train, you train only with your own crew, and then you travel to UK, and you have the real quote unquote jiu-jitsu. What's your experience like?
Well, I mean, the experience was fun. You get your ass kicked by by Roger Gracie himself. I mean, that's something not a lot of people had the honor to have. Trained with a lot of big names out there. Brawley Estimo was there. I was a purple belt back in the day, and I remember like I was getting my ass kicked all the time. And man, that was really fun. That was where I grew from there. I grew from that, and I became a much better fighter from all that, gaining all that experience, and just to put you in the spot and just to show you how much more you have to learn, and then what kind of people exist.
Yeah, I mean, there had to be a great experience. You dropping some big names. I mean, Roger Gracie. I mean, it's
those were the names back in the day. Like those were the names. I mean, these people were like tapping everybody out. I remember like he was making all of us look like babies, like total beginners. Not only myself, like he was making other world champions look like beginners.
Well, but you are talking about, I mean, the GOAT. You're talking about one of the best of the best of the best in business to this day. I mean, yeah. Even to this day, I still think he's the best. Did you know who you were training with? Not by name, but by the skill. Like, did you realize how big, how important this was? Of course. Like, of course I did. He was just a guy that was on another level. It was like totally on another level. Well, did we lose you, or are you still there? I'm still there. Okay, the video went off. Because a lot of people today who start jiu-jitsu, they don't know who Roger is. They don't know who Gracies are. Like I think part of that history is kind of fading away slowly, I think. And it's kind of a shame, because I recently even talked about, Marcelo Garcia, and one of my students was asking, well, who is he? And I was like, dude, you need to Google this. Like you can't train jiu-jitsu not knowing who some of those personalities are. And you talk about literally hands-on training with them. So that's a privilege that many will never experience. This is the difference between the old generations and new generations. And this is one of the things that I hate about these new generations. They have zero respect towards the old generation and the people that helped creating the sport and make it what it is today. And I think that history is something that can never be forgotten. And I think these young generations should show a little bit more thankfulness for the elder guys that pounded the road for them, to put it that way. But unfortunately, like, you don't see a lot of this. Like, I see a bunch of these young guys. Man, I had a guy the other day. He said he wants to do MMA, and the guy had no idea who John Jones was. So I mean, right? What world? Where are you living? Then he said, "Yeah, I remember the guy, but he's too old now. His time is gone. Like, he's done." I'm like, "What the?" So, yeah, these new generations. Hopefully they'll never meet.
Yeah.
So.
I think that we've talked about that before. I think that comes with age, though. I think when the ignorant 22-year-old will probably, by the time he's 32, have a different outlook on all of that. Well, my fear is that by then the bits and pieces of history will disappear. Right? Because it really, history is carried down from generation to generation, from person to person. It's not, whether you read books, watch movies, or tell stories, it has to be relayed to another person in order to carry on. And there's always bits and pieces they have forgotten. And we are not talking about these big individuals, like Marcelo Garcia or, Roger, or, even newer generation like Andre Galvão. I mean,
these are huge names that literally, and I'm not talking about the originators. I'm not even talking about that. This is like our generation. I'm treating it that way. Like these guys are getting forgotten, let alone like people don't know who Roger Gracie is. I mean, that's like, that's mind blowing to me.
It's up to us, right? I think it's up to us. Man. So,
I'll tell you one thing though. The main, what's the word? The main, what's the word? The thing to blame for this is Instagram. And let me explain you why. Right. Because what this shit does, sorry, excuse my language, what it does is it gives the fake feeling to every single, I must use this word, retard out there, that he or she is like the big deal, and when in fact you're not, you're nothing. And this really pisses me off so much. Like, I mean, I see all these people like they train and like they think they are, you know, everybody thinks he or she is the GOAT, you know, like, and I think this is very bad. I think it's a bad influence on these younger generations, because in my time we didn't have this, and we didn't have the approach to this kind of media, social media things, and we had a lot of respect towards all these champions. You mentioned Marcelo Garcia. I think he definitely had great impact on my life. I watched every single one of his fights, and I'll never forget like the impact that he had on my life, you know, where with all this accessibility that these kids today have, I think they'll never fully understand certain things that we did back in the days.
I think you're right in some aspect, because like when I was starting in 2000, there was no, YouTube didn't exist, Google didn't exist, or if it did, it was almost non-existent, didn't have the capability it has today. You know, DVDs didn't exist, VHS did, but it was like barely anything, right? And it's the only thing really I remember is having a couple books. And like, if you got your hands on a true DVD, that was like, whoa, dude, we hanging out this weekend at your house. We're going to watch jiu-jitsu. We're going to roll on the carpet. Like that was it. That was it. Today, you pick this up and you can literally find anything, everywhere, anywhere, anything you want in this second right now. Very different world that we live in today.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily the accessibility. I think it's more the cult of personality type of thing, where it's like you're following these people because of who follows them. It's like it's a weird thing where you're not following them because of what they've achieved. You're following them because of how many followers they have, or what their social media personality is. You know, and then you find out that some of these people are the exact opposite of that, and sometimes it's good because their social media personality kind of sucks. And then other times, of course, it's terrible because that's really who they are, you know?
And well, this is kind of the consequence of the world we are in, right? That all these social media tools are great marketing tools. And some of these individuals are brilliant marketing themselves.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, there are some brilliant geniuses who don't know how to market themselves, and they fall off. They just, nobody knows about them, and that's kind of, you know, that's kind of shame.
Yeah,
it's kind of shame, because there are some amazing stories out there. So,
I think, you know, really do your research on people. Is, you know, when we started this podcast, we've had guests who I wasn't sure who they were. The names I had heard, but then if you go and you look at like their match history or their fight history, that's going to tell you a hell of a lot more about this person than their Instagram feed will, for sure. Mm-hmm. You know, I would much rather see your win-loss record and who it was against than see what kind of car you're driving, you know, who your sponsors are.
Come on, Gary. Every morning you wake up, you go through your Instagram, you're scrolling.
That's the first thing I do.
You're liking things. I know you do.
Yeah, you can go. That's exactly what I do every day.
Listen, we talk about fighting. How did this convert into fighting? Because you fight, and I don't mean MMA. I mean you had some pretty. And we'll get into bare knuckle, which is very, very interesting concept. And I want to hear some stories from some of your fights. But how did this convert from this unorthodox jiu-jitsu that nobody trains to you going to UK, taking your grappling to the next level? How did this convert into a professional fighting? What are you experiencing today?
Oh man, that's a long story. The way I got into bare knuckle boxing was it was a freaky accident. I had some health issues, and I had 4 losses in a row, and I was actually thinking about stopping fighting, like, completely.
And you mean MMA? You talking about MMA right now?
Yeah. And then, like, I started to feel a little bit better, and I wanted to fight again, and I couldn't get myself an MMA fight. You couldn't get them, and even today, it's very hard. It's way harder to find MMA fights than before. It's way harder. And
is that because there's so many people doing them? The saturation of fighters is so high.
Yes, and the problem is all these guys that want to fight. They what's the word? There's too many of them. There's too many of them, and a lot of the people that get the chance to fight, I honestly don't think they deserved it. I think there are people out there that deserve it more. And make a long story short, I couldn't get myself an MMA fight, and the only offer that I got was a bare knuckle boxing fight. And me as an individual, I always like to try new things, so I was like, yeah, what the hell, why not? And I had no idea, like, how to train for this, what's it gonna feel like, what's it gonna be. I was just like, it's a new thing, give it a shot. And same thing, exactly the same thing. Messages started to come. You're crazy. You lost your mind. Are you a lunatic? What's wrong with you? Are you actually gonna fight in bare knuckle? That's primitive. That's so sad to see you fight this. People were texting me like, how can you fall so low and fight in bare knuckle? And I was like, okay, no problem. Thanks for your support. Man, I finished my first fight, and I did like 2 or 3 more fights. And after that, bare knuckle boxing exploded. It became like the next big thing. Like you have the US based promotions. You have some promotions in Poland, a lot of them in Russia. And it just blew through the roof. And I was like, at first, when I started with this, people were mocking me. People were like, how can you do this? This is pathetic. Like, this is not real fighting. This is barbaric. I was like, what the hell? And next thing you know, everybody wants to do it.
So for those who don't know what bare knuckle fighting is, explain what is the difference between bare knuckle and a traditional boxing.
I mean, it's huge. It's huge. Like, getting hit by a bare knuckle is it's a completely different thing.
All right, explain this. Like, you got to explain this. I know you have good stories because I heard them. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's more similar to what's the word? I don't know how many street fights you had, but like getting in a street fight has nothing to do with an MMA fight. It has nothing to do with a kickboxing fight. It's a completely different thing. So I would say the instinct is more similar to the street fight. And the distance management is totally different. And everything, a lot of the things have to be solved with one strong punch. And there's not a lot of combinations. You cannot use classic boxing combinations. The footwork has to be really good. You got to be light on your feet, and you definitely got to be very accurate.
And all that, just to explain, all of that is because one punch could end all of it, right?
Exactly. Like, I mean, look, you can lose an eye. One cut can stop the fight. One punch can break your nose. One punch can break your jaw. So, like, injuries happen. Like all the 4 fighters that I fought, I believe 3 of them ended up in hospital.
All right. You got to explain this. You got to explain this to me. What was like, I've boxed before. I kickboxed before. I've never hit anybody with my bare knuckles. What in the world does it feel like when you actually hit somebody in the face with your bare fist?
So to me or to them?
Well,
I'd
both,
like to
I
know
guess.
both. Yeah, because we always hear that
I mean,
gloves are to protect your hands, not protect the other guy,
it's,
right?
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like you can actually feel on your fist, you can feel as your hand goes inside of the skull, and it's a little bit, it's freaky. I gotta tell you, it's freaky. And I remember fighting this one guy, Ricky Nelder, and I don't know how he kept his composure and stayed on his feet. But like I remember at one point, I hit him with an uppercut, and I felt my hand going in so deep into his skull, and he was still standing. He was very disoriented, and he was wobbling, but like he was still standing. I was like, what the hell? And I remember at the end of the fight, like my hand was hurting me like hell. It was all swollen, and then the last round I couldn't hit him anymore because my hand was so banged up, and we ended up going to decision. I don't know how he felt. He didn't look so good. His face was all changed, and he looked very bad. So I don't know. It's scary. It's freaky.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, just from the description you are giving us, what does it feel like to getting hit?
I never got hit. I haven't received a single good punch in all 4 fights.
Well, you're ruining this interview. What are you doing? I want to.
So yeah, I was trying to fight a smart fight, be light on the feet, and use more of karate distance than a regular kickboxing or boxing distance, just to not get injured. And because one punch can change everything, right? So ideally, you don't want to get hit. You want to inflict damage and then not get hit. That's what you want to do in case if you want to win. In case if you want to make it a show like Julian Lane does, I mean, that's a different scenario. I'm not that type of fighter. So I like to fight smarter, not to get hit, and don't want to see a lot of blood, and just, I want to inflict the damage and not get hit.
How do you train for this?
That's
it's simple. You train, you got to work your angles. You got to find the angles. You got to figure out the posture of your opponent. Every opponent has a different posture and a different footwork, different stance. So you got to figure out what punches you can hit him with, and what angles you can use on him. So every specific opponent you train differently. But it's all about setting up the angles and the footwork.
But in the traditional boxing or kickboxing or even in grappling, you do have a more of a live sparring situation, which represents maybe not in full way how the fight would go, but you can get really close to it from intensity to technique. I can't imagine that you spar bare knuckle.
No, never. No, right. We spar with big gloves. We worked a lot on defenses, primarily defenses using our feet, because you have several kind of defenses. You can use your feet. You can use your blocks, or you can use your body. So we were paying a lot of attention on staying light on the feet and just not to get hit. Basically, in and out, and that's it.
How long are you planning on doing this?
Well, I haven't fought bare knuckle in a while. It kind of went down in England, and now the best one is in the States. I'm back to MMA now. I don't feel like going back to bare knuckle. So, unless they offer me a good money, then I would go.
Why that switch?
Well, MMA was the first. First of all, I miss the grappling a lot. Mm-hmm. And I miss the clinch, and I miss the kicks as well, the knees and elbows and all the other stuff you can use in MMA. And the rounds are shorter. It's like 2-minute rounds, so it's totally different ball game. It's totally different. Everything is different. So I enjoy MMA much more than I do. But like MMA is more complete skill, where Bare knuckle, I feel like I'm not using my whole potential, to put it that way.
It makes sense. So more MMA ahead of you, right? Go back when to your childhood. Have you ever dreamt, or did you ever have thinking about that's what you're going to become in the future? You're going to be actually a fighter to do this. Was there when does the thought of professionally fighting started for you?
No, not really. Actually, as a kid, I was very pacifistic. What's the word? Quiet, introverted.
That's hard to imagine, actually.
It is. I was very, very small kid, a tiny kid, not very strong. Wasn't talking a lot. Just trained tennis when I was 6 years old, all the way till the age of 13. Then I stopped. Never got into a fight. Never was aggressive. I survived the war. The war started in 1990, and I was 6 years old back in the day. And I've been in Croatia the entire war, and that was a little bit of a bad experiences. And anyway, survived that stuff. And then at the age of 16, I started to lift weights a lot. And by the age of 19, I could say I was decently strong. And I don't know what the hell happened, but all of a sudden I was just it's almost like a late puberty hit me. And all of a sudden I wanted to party. I wanted to go out. I wanted to fight. I wanted to do all these things that I didn't do through high school and elementary school. And I just lost my mind, and I just flipped, and that's it. To be honest with you, that's the story.
Fair enough. How is so you talked about all these unfortunate events in your country on the very beginning. Obviously jiu-jitsu, fighting, grappling is non-existent back then, or it's almost non-existent, right? What does a fighting or grappling, maybe let's narrow it down to jiu-jitsu only. What is jiu-jitsu scene like there right now? Is it a common activity? Is it not?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now it's completely different than it used to be. There's a lot of competitions, a lot of clubs, a lot of promotions. We have a lot of black belts now, a lot of good guys. So it's definitely on a high level now, and it's getting there. Even higher.
Some even say that Europe is actually catching up with the skill set to US and Brazil. There are some phenomenal grapplers coming from all over the Europe. Do you find that being true?
Yeah, absolutely. Countries like Poland, they're I think they're the best. Finland, and I forgot. There's even some guys from Hungary. We have 2 or 3 really good guys from my country, so we're definitely catching up.
What do you think?
The problem is you can't dedicate your life to this because you don't make money by doing it. So this is the problem. You can't make a lot of money on jiu-jitsu, especially not here. So it's not like in the States where you can actually make money off of it. Here you don't. It's very just not something you make money off.
So how do these clubs operate? I mean, if I would imagine there are some kind of fees and memberships and things of that, or is it all nonprofit?
Yeah. Some of it is nonprofit, and then some of it is there are some fees and membership and stuff like that. But in general, it's more goodwill of these guys that have these clubs, and they just love the sport. They just love the sport, and that's how they operate, more or less.
Which puts it in a very difficult decision. I mean, very difficult position, because then it's great to have free jiu-jitsu or inexpensive jiu-jitsu, but then these guys can't make money, and the guys who are learning, they don't have future either. So it's kind of hard. Is that kind of position where you are in right now? That has to be hard, where you can't do this as profession.
That's why I don't want to have my own school, because I don't feel like dealing with all the politics and all the BS. And I'm one day when I finish with fighting, I want to do something else. but I'm always there to help somebody, and to show something to somebody that wants to learn. So I always like to share my knowledge. But trust me, not many guys walked up to me and asked me like, "Hey, can you show me this and that? Can you help me out with this? What do you think of this?" No, man, it's like everybody thinks they're the shit, So that's the problem.
Everybody's the champ, huh?
Everybody's the champ. Yep.
Do you think that's just that Croatia's 20 years behind? Like you were saying earlier, do you think it'll change for the better?
But that's kind of how it's here too,
right? In 10 years, you'll have big clubs that are cost.
This is everywhere. This is not just Croatia. This is like, this mentality is all over the world. I remember reading somewhere that Fedor was saying that he wants to help all the Russian fighters and that he wants to share his knowledge. Now, this guy knows. This guy really knows the shit. And he said, I offered them my help and they don't want it. They don't want it. Then I'm thinking, wait a second. If they don't want his help, like why would somebody want my help, right? So I guess this is all over the world. I guess this is just this new age thing, and that's it.
That's crazy.
Well, why in the world? I don't get it. Why? Like,
Me neither.
If Marcelo Garcia called me and was like, "Hey, listen, I want to help you," I was like, "How much do you want? Let me write the check right now. How much do you want?"
Right.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I think the same way. I think you can learn, actually. I mean, I have no problems with walking up to a blue belt and ask him how he did certain things. If I see he's doing something very good, then he or she does something that's very good. And, I have no ego problems with asking that person what they're doing. Unfortunately, not a lot of people think like this, I think.
No, you're right. I mean, I found myself, running my academy, obviously, as black belts, we have more experience. We've done more things. There's more time on the mat. That's irreplaceable. But I think what we don't have is their mind. They think differently. And of course. I found myself a number of times in a position when I see somebody who is by far less experienced, but they do something phenomenal. I was like, wait. Show me what you do. I see what you're doing. I understand why you're doing it, but I want to understand how you're thinking about this. Like, how do you create these sequences? Because I want to learn right now. Right now I'm learning. And not a lot. I feel like not a lot of people do this way. I feel like everybody is on their own. It's all about me. And the sharing factor is so thin. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, man. I think a lot of it has to do with ego. And I don't know. I guess people just being narrow-minded, not communicative. I don't know. I have no problems. I never had these problems like with asking other people to show me stuff, or like I always see when somebody does something good and I always want to learn. That's just my mentality. And I always feel the same when somebody approaches me and then wants to learn the same thing. I'll always show. I have no problems with this. And I remember back in 2007, I remember Nogueira was here in Croatia. He was doing a seminar. And I was like a blue belt back in the day. And you wouldn't believe this, but like this guy, we rolled for like 30 minutes.
You and him?
Yeah, I rolled with him for like 30 minutes. I was 22 years old at the time. I was a blue belt. I was strong, but I was not as technical as he was. And this guy, I'll never forget this. Like, I asked him a question about some technique, and he showed me. And then I asked him, like, what do you think of this? And then I showed him. It was a back escape. And when I asked him, like, what do you think of this back escape? He said, I've never seen it in my life. Can you please show it to me again? And I was like, did he actually say that? Then I was like, you want me to show you the back escape again? He was like, yeah, I've never seen it before. So I showed him, and he said, like, wow, what a great thing. Like, he said, like, I'm going to use it now.
But that had to make you feel good. I mean, you're 22 years old. You are a blue belt. You're looking up to this guy. He's a well-accomplished fighter and black belt, and then he's asking you to teach him something.
Yeah. So basically, that's when I realized why he was that good, is because he said, like, you never stop learning, and you can learn certain things from a blue belt, a white belt. I don't know. Some people, they just have these naturally really good, smart reactions. Right? Not everybody is athletic. Not everybody is super strong. So they have to come up with different solutions. And also depending on the body type, long, short, stocky, different body types. So like people create different solutions for different scenarios. And I think this is why you need to train with a large variety of people. So that way you can take something and build it up in your game. And I think this is how you become better.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe that the reason your attitude is the way it is because you trained at home, right? You trained in the UK, you trained extensively here in the US. Probably all those different influences helped you develop to what you are, rather than pigeonholing yourself, in this small group of people, where then that ego kind of builds to where you think you're the shit, and you don't want to learn from anybody else.
Well, this is the thing. Like we have an expression in my country. We say, what's the word? We say. So this is how a lot of people here think. I'm not one of these people, but they think like it's better to be the master in your village than number 10 in the world.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So they so like, what if I'm the shit in my city that has like, I don't know what, 100,000 people? It's not the same if I'm the shit in the world or in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the way that some of these people unfortunately think. I'm not being one of them. And I remember when one coach, every time when I would come back from England, he would ask me like, "Did you spar with this guy, Brawley Estima?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "How did you go?" And I told him, not that good. And he said like, "What?" He said like, "You're strong as fuck. Like, what do you mean you didn't go so good?" I'm like, "That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Like, you haven't seen this level. And like, until you don't feel this, you cannot know what kind of people exist out there."
Yeah, it's important to expand your horizons, I think, right? I think what you're saying, what's the saying here is big fish in a small pond, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Go the other way.
And I think it's very eye-opening because there are levels of everything.
Oh, for sure.
We like, and it's very humbling, I think, especially after you've been doing a student, a person has been doing something for so long that let's be honest, they achieve a level of mastery. I mean, they are an expert, right? You are an expert in something, right? And in our cases might be a jiu-jitsu, but I personally have no illusions. There are thousands of people who are way better than me, and they will make me look like a little girl in a pink skirt. I mean, it is what it is. And I would love to have the opportunity to get beat up by these guys. Gary laughs at my statement.
Yeah, I'd love to see that opportunity. It's not going to come from me, but I'll be there to watch. I'll have my popcorn.
But listen, you train with phenomenal guys. You mentioned a lot of them, a lot of big names. Who do you think stood out for you the most? Which experience was like, holy crap, this is just out of this world. All these guys are next level, but this guy is just like lightning miles away.
Oh man, that's a hard question. So I would say three people that I rolled with in their prime were the shit. So Roger Gracie was just out of this world. He was just he was an alien. He was not. He was something totally different. Brawley Estima was another guy with a different style, totally different style, but like he would make you look extremely ridiculous. And Robert Drysdale in his prime was like he was something different too. So I would say those three names were they were just out of this world.
Yeah, and I mean, none of them are small guys, especially Robert. He's a big boy, and so is Hajar. I mean, Hajar is not heavy, but he's tall. I've never met Hajar, so I'm wrong, but he's tall. He's like 6'6", I think. You're not small either. I mean, you are a big boy too, and when you say these guys are bigger, then that really puts it in perspective. So
Yeah, it's like when somebody knows how to use the weight in a perfect form. So if they were very good at using their weight at the right moment, and like today, I kind of know some of the things that they were doing because John Danaher explains it perfectly, and it's only today that I understand like the concepts that they were using. And back in the day, I didn't have that knowledge was not accessible to me. So I had to study and like watch them what they do. And I swear to God, man, like you could watch these guys all day and you still couldn't understand what the hell they were doing. So,
yeah, and did it feel like they are 10 steps ahead of you? Like no matter what you do, there's always a loss.
Yeah. It was this. Yeah, I would say it was like playing a chess against a chess master. Like, there's no way.
But such a phenomenal experience.
It is.
Who do you? So these guys gave you. These guys obviously had a huge impact on you from a performance perspective. Definitely. Who made the biggest impact on you from an instructor perspective? Because that's a separate bucket. Like there are some people who are phenomenal grapplers, but there are some people who are phenomenal instructors. Like their ability to break down the information and make it so easy to understand. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, that will be John Danaher. He would be the guy.
John is the man.
John is the man. Yeah, he's the way he breaks things down and the way he explains things and the way he sees things is different. And like if I ever wanted to improve my jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't go anywhere else but him. Like he's the one guy that you actually like. Some of the details that he had showed me, they saved my ass in a lot of situations, in fighting and in sparring and et cetera, et cetera. And they were like minor details, like you would never say that they can play such a major role, and they do. So like imagine training under this kind of person full time, like Gary does, like Gordon Ryan does, like some of these guys do. No wonder why they're the best.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot weight behind the knowledge and experience that John and all the other guys bring into the table. I mean, even Gordon himself, even though as a student, right, as under John, but there's a lot of weight and knowledge that he carries and experience from a grappling perspective. I mean, phenomenal.
Absolutely.
What do you think? Sometimes if we find ourselves in these positions where you said that little detail, like just the little itty bitty thing that it seems completely irrelevant and yet makes such a huge impact. Do you think those small details are more important, or is it the big concepts of understanding the bigger things that really makes an impact?
Shit, man, both of it matters. So it's like the learning never stops. Like one thing that I realized with I was there in New York last time. It was 2015, I believe, and I didn't realize what these guys were doing and why they were so good. And then I realized it's the system that's behind. He doesn't do one thing or two things. He does like 5 or 6 different things, and then he just switches and he mixes them up. And he has a system that's developed so perfectly that these guys are very hard to beat. Very, very hard. It's the same like Russian people have their system in boxing, and this is why they're the best. Same thing in wrestling. They have the system. So when you do something systematically, it's totally different than just working on one position and then drilling it the whole time. But the system actually helps you to build your own game and to create things for yourself. So this is where the difference is.
So is it it's like a blueprint, and then you can work within it for your own style, your own development, and pick out what works for you?
Exactly. So it's almost like somebody gives you the alphabet, and as a kid, you learn the first thing you learn is the alphabet, and then you go from there. And this is the way that he does in jiu-jitsu. And this is like my whole life. I've been trying to. I've been studying all the martial arts, wrestling and boxing especially, and I was always trying to figure out what people that are really successful at what they do, what is it that makes them so good? And studying all this Russian system, I came up to a conclusion that they actually are the best for Olympic sports. And there's a reason why they do something good. And spend a lot of years studying what they do, how they practice, what they do for strength and conditioning, what they do, how they drill, what techniques they use, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely their presence, especially during Olympics, it's quite heavy, with a heavy success for many decades at this point. So they must be doing something right? So how do you study against somebody like that?
Well, the only way that's a good question. So the only way that you can study against them, if you're smart and wise, you're going to bring somebody from there to your country. You're going to pay him all the money he wants for coaching your Olympic team. And you're going to be very nice and respectful to this person. And you're going to do exactly what he tells you when he tells you. And you're going to achieve results. So we had a funny situation in Croatia back in 2007. We had our boxing Olympic team that was supposed to go to the Olympics in 2008. And this Russian coach, his name is Filimonov. That's his last name. I believe Vasily is his first name. And he was the creator of multiple world champions and Olympic champions. And he liked my country a lot. He said, I really like your country. I want to move here. Just give me a job as a coach and I'll work for free. Now, he said, I guarantee you medals in the Olympic. If I don't bring the medal, don't give me the money. That's what he said. And so he only said, like, if I bring a medal, then you're going to pay me. If I don't bring a medal back, you don't have to pay me anything. And of course, the Croatian council decided not to take him as a coach because he's a Russian guy, which is very stupid. He went to Italy, and he trained this guy Roberto Camarello, and he took the gold. So the guy offered his knowledge to us, and we were smart enough to say no. So that's all I can say. Trust me, this guy, he knows so much about boxing that it's scary. It's scary shit. He knows it's like he's like what John Danaher is in BJJ. That's what this guy is in boxing. That's how good he is.
Yeah, I won't say who it was, but we recently had somebody on who was talking about the complexity of jiu-jitsu over other arts, and he was saying, and tell me if you believe the same thing. He was saying that he feels like boxing, there's only a finite number of things that you can do within that. And it's peaked, so to say, where jiu-jitsu is evolving. It's going to keep evolving. There's always new innovative things. It's always changing. Do you find that to be true? Is there a limitation in boxing, or is it still going to evolve and change? I mean, obviously, if you look at fight films from 60 years ago, things have changed, but is it going to stop? Is it going to, because there's only a certain number of punches you can throw. You're only using your hands. You can't clinch, things like that.
Good question. I would say this way. Boxing, if you look at boxing today, and if you look at boxing in the 80s and the 90s, you're going to find different styles. I don't know, like the boxers like Roy Jones Jr., Prince Nassim, who else? They were just,
like Whitaker.
In my eyes, they were different boxers than these boxers today. And there's a reason why. So today in boxing, everything is based on force and physique. If you look at the Olympics today and 10 or 15 years ago, you're going to see different styles of fighting. And there's a reason why, because these people today are focusing more on the physical attributes than on actual skill. And you're going to see a lot of people are more focusing on strength and power and endurance and hitting mitts all the time. And that's not actually what it's all about. That's not
it's about the style.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there's that documentary, documentary on Ali right now, and in the first episode of it, they talk about how he did everything wrong. Like he was always, I
actually disagree with that. A lot of the stuff that he did it perfectly. Like I can even show you the elements that he was using.
What I mean by that, though, is that the people at that time thought everything he was doing was wrong because he was throwing punches, backing up. He was backing straight up, things like that. So that's what I mean by that.
He was way ahead of his time. I'll give you that. Like he was way ahead of his time, and that's why he was that good. And later, this system was developed in the Soviet Union, I believe, in the I'm not sure, was it 60s or the 70s? And they were investing a lot of money into studying human anatomy and then human brain, and they were investing a lot in the sport in general, like in the sport science. And they came up with these drills that, when you combine them, it gives you like the basis of everything. It gives you the alphabet. And from there, when they teach you this whole thing, you can create your own style. But for you to be able to create your style, you need to know the alphabet first. And this is what a lot of these boxing schools, they do wrong. First day when you walk into the gym, they let you hit the mitts, or they let you hit the bag. And I think this is wrong. This is a wrong approach.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is you bring up interesting points. One, all these individuals who are being told they are wrong, they are the ones who are pioneers of something new. I mean, if you look at it, right? Definitely. I mean, if we continue repeating what everybody else is doing, nothing new will be invented. I mean, that's just a very simple principle of life. Somebody has to do something different in order new things to arrive. And two, some of these systems, quote unquote, are really the core. And similar in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the same thing. You learn the alphabet, you learn the basics. The basics are the key.
Absolutely.
Without the basics, you can bolo and nothing is going to happen. It's I know the other stuff is very fancy, is very appealing, very entertaining. And I think that's why I think the conversation from earlier, the Instagram and the videos, the little stimulators, that's kind of what's messing with us often, because we are more willing, more interested in learning the fancy and entertaining things versus really digging into the grind of basics, but grind of fundamentals. And that is really what's going to carry us over.
Absolutely.
Goran, what a great, interesting conversation. Before we wrap this up, we've been at this for almost an hour now, but before we wrap this up, we have a couple questions for you. One of them is actually from one of our listeners. Sure. If you don't mind, Gary's going to take a lead on this. Some of the questions are funny and some of them are not so funny, but it's always interesting ending to the show.
Yeah. So they always start with, what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat?
What was your feeling like?
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe we should change it up a little bit, because you're working out with your small core group of people in Croatia. Maybe what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat in the UK when you were with Roger and those guys? What was that like?
What did it feel like?
Oh well, as a Croatian guy, we do have a big ego, and we are tough people, so we got to show that. And I guess there was a lot of that pride involved, and I mean, definitely every time you step on the mat, it's a war, and obviously you don't want to get destroyed. So I mean, I don't know what's the word, challenging. Definitely, but then again, like, I enjoy challenges. That's why I got into fighting, and then that's how I started. So I wouldn't say it was nothing. I would say it was nothing, no big deal, nothing special. Just another day in the office, I guess.
let me ask you this. I'm curious. So you and Roger, you face out for the first time. You know who he is. Did you actually think that you can beat him?
No, hell no, no. I had no
Nice.
disillusions in my mind whatsoever. It's just I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware that he was gonna beat me that easily. That's it.
All right.
I thought I might do a little bit better, but yeah, I didn't.
It didn't work out.
No.
Have you ever wanted to quit? And jiu-jitsu, I'm talking about jiu-jitsu.
You know what? Yes and yes, but every time when I quit, it's like a drug. You can't like a good drug, of course.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stop. You don't want to stop. Like the sport made me who I am, and it gave me everything I have in my life. So I think it would be disrespectful to the sport to stop.
Nice.
And
that's a great answer.
Yeah, that's why I'll never stop with it.
All right. The next one is from the listener, and it's from Joe, and he wants to know how you stayed committed to your training during the pandemic.
Very, very simple. I think the pandemic is bullshit, and I think it's, yeah.
So you just did your thing, right? You did whatever you didn't stop.
Here's the thing, man. Like when I step in the store, I step inside without a mask. And when somebody asked me, like, put the mask on, I said, no, I'm not going to put the mask. And when they ask me why, I just tell them that I refuse to be a part of the circus. And that's it. Like, you can tell me whatever you want. I'm not going to put the mask on, and call me rude and disrespectful, but I'm not going to put the mask on, and we're done. And in my eyes, the pandemic didn't exist, and I behaved like it wasn't there. And like I know so many people here, the gym owners, that share the same opinion. And at one point, a lot of the gyms closed. Now, one of my friends, he said, like, yeah, I'm just going to pretend like we're closed, but like, just come here at this time, and we're not going to turn on the lights. We're going to train inside. Like, everything is normal. And that's it. That's what we did.
All right, so you made no changes. That's a pretty good way to stay committed, I guess.
And
then how does anybody ask you to leave the store? How do you ask to leave the store when the mask isn't on?
I would not want to have that conversation with you.
You know, that's above my pay grade right there. You know, if I'm working at the local deli and they're like, you got to get him out of here, I might be time to look for another job.
No, I'm never disrespectful to the people, but you know, some woman that works in a convenience store is like, when you come to the cash register and you know, you got to pay for what you buy. And she's like, sir, what about the mask? I'm like, nope, I'm not going to put it on. And then she just say, okay. And that's it.
And that's it. All right.
Yeah.
So we're fairly close with where this happened, but describe your feelings when you received your black belt.
So it's like when you're a brown belt, you're seeking, you want to get that black belt. And I mean, it was incredible, definitely. But I received my black belt in 2013. And I remember when I received it, it was like a very special moment, but only later I realized that that's only the beginning of the journey. And they say it takes getting a black belt to realize that it's not about the belt. And it's true. So it's only now that I understand that there's still so much stuff that I have to learn. And that's it. Like, you basically never stop learning.
Great.
This is where the journey starts. It doesn't end there. It only starts. It's only then you realize how much you don't know.
Yeah, that's a very common answer we get here. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. And then speaking of that belt, do you wash your belt?
No. So honestly, I don't train in the gi that much anymore.
Sure.
I'm much more focused on the no gi. Because like one day when I finish with MMA career, I want to focus much more on the no gi. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult thing to stay on both tracks and be good at both of those discipline, because they're both so much different. And I feel like my body is more for no gi, so I'm more focused on no gi than gi.
Nice. All right.
Phenomenal. Outstanding. Well, let's wrap this up formally. Listen, where can people find you? If anybody wants to connect with you and follow you on social media, are you
Instagram? Yeah, Instagram.
Instagram, the platform of fake videos.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh, that bad mouthing, and now that's where we are.
Right, cool.
That's awesome. Good luck with the recovery. I hope that goes well. And Thomas,
that's it. Let's wrap this up. I mean, phenomenal stories. I love talking to you, and I hope I see you. Are you coming to US anytime soon?
Definitely. So I got a fight sometime this year. I'm not sure when it's gonna be. I got signed contract with this Russian promotion called ACA, which is the second best promotion after the UFC now officially. And hell, I even think they have harder fighters than the UFC does, some weight divisions. And so this is definitely my greatest challenge so far. And sometimes after my next fight, I'm definitely going to come for a visit.
Yeah, wonderful. Sweet. Make sure we stay in touch. And, obviously, if you're in Chicago, we need to connect and hang out again. So, all right, phenomenal. Let's wrap this up for today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sharing the stories and all the wisdom. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you,
Peace.
Appreciate it. All right. Peace. Ciao.
What? Before you go, like I said in the intro to the episode, we are giving away another Fuji gi today. And all you have to do to win one of those gis is go to therolradio.com, drop us a question, either for Thomas and myself or for a guest. If we read that question on the air, you go into a pool, and at the end of the month, we draw from that pool. So your chances of winning are really, really, really high. So I went to the random number generator. I picked that number, and the winner for today is actually the question that we had in today's episode, Joe. So, Joe, look for an email from me. You will have 72 hours to respond from the time you receive that email, or should I say from the time it's sent. And if you get back to us with all that pertinent information, a Fuji gi will be on its way to you. So to be like Joe and win, go to therolradio.com, drop us a question, we read it on the air, you go into a pool, we pull from that, and a gi is on its way to you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.